How do you find joy when life is hard? 2025 was one of the hardest years of my life. I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, even though I'm a pretty healthy, active woman who isn't even old enough for colon cancer screenings. But even fighting cancer, I talked to people whose circumstances were harder than mine. So how do we make sense of a biblical command like the one in James 1, verse 2? Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. But Lord, I consider it pure joy when all my plans fall into place, when I'm spending a really peaceful day with my family. Why on earth would I consider it joy when I face trials? Well, the answer comes down to perspective. We start to understand this even as we finish the verse. We're to consider it pure joy because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. I wish that I could just be mature and complete right now without any trials, but the reality is God is still working on me, and his work won't be finished in my life until I'm in heaven. So to consider trials in this world joy, I need a perspective shift. And I don't know a better way to illustrate this than by telling you a really embarrassing story about a crush I had on a public figure. Here it goes. When I was 14, I went to a national youth conference where Chris Tomlin led worship. According to a Google search and some calculations, Chris would have been at least double my age. I was a shy Christian girl who loved music and fell hard for this talented singer. I attended a special session where Chris was interviewed, and then he posed for pictures with fans at the end. In my picture, it looked like my eyes were about to burst out of my head. I wanted to share it with you, but it got so worn out from years of displaying it that, sorry, I can't. But it didn't matter to me that Chris was twice my age, that we would never see each other again, that he had no idea who I was. 14-year-old Sarah believed she was in love with Chris Tomlin and that we were meant to be. So when I got home from that youth conference, I spent several days in my room in a downward spiral of unrequited love. I remember crying so hard that snot ran down my face as I looked at the picture of Chris and I. You and I can laugh at this now, but in that moment, my pain was real. The grief I experienced as a 14-year-old was as real as the more grown-up griefs that I have experienced. I cried the same snot-producing level of tears when I was diagnosed with cancer. So why can we laugh at my Chris Tomlin story? The passing of time, maturity, and life experience has drastically changed my perspective. I'm now married to an amazing man who is not Chris Tomlin, someone who knows me, who loves me back, who was born in the same decade as me. And now that I've experienced real love, it's funny to remember that I thought I could love a famous singer who I had never talked to, who I knew nothing substantial about. I can see God's hand in my life bringing my husband and I together, and he has had an incredible impact on who I am today. I'm thankful that God didn't give me exactly what I wanted because I didn't know what I needed when I was 14. Perspective changes everything. Romans 8:18 says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. A few verses later, Paul speaks in verse 22 about how the whole creation is groaning as in the pains of childbirth. These verses are about perspective. As hard as the trials of life are, as devastating as cancer and miscarriages and infertility and layoffs and death and broken relationships are, as Christians, we can see them from a different perspective. We view them through the lens of hope and faith. How? By realizing that just as painful, body-racking labor contractions are producing the outcome of a new life, The agonizing, life-wrecking trials of this world are producing eternal glory that far outweighs them all. James 1 says that our trials are producing a mature and complete faith. When Paul says our current circumstances aren't even worth comparing with the future, it's like he's saying, if you knew what this was producing, what a mature faith is worth, you would go through the labor pains 100 times, 1,000 times. I know it's hard to just wait for heaven, but I've also seen God producing character in my life and fruit now as a direct result of difficult circumstances. While I pray that my life is far from over, I have already had the blessing of seeing God use my circumstances to bear fruit in ways I never could have imagined. I believe these are just little tastes of the great aha moment we will have in heaven, when we are able to glimpse the incredible plans and purposes that our Father has been weaving together for thousands of years. In Romans 8:28, Paul writes, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." What might make absolutely no sense to me right now from this earthly perspective is under God's sovereign control. He is weaving it together for my good, for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. My perspective right now might scream, "Why, God? Why are you doing this?" But my perspective has been wrong before. The passing of time and maturing has totally shifted how I saw situations. So how much more will this happen when I meet the creator of the universe and he reveals his incredible plan for my life and for our world? In my cancer, God is sovereign and has a plan to use it for my good. In your betrayal, your layoff, your depression, your tragic accident, God can work all things for the good of those who love him. And because of that, our perspective is different. We don't grieve as those who have no hope. I still have moments of lamenting and begging God to heal me, but I can also live with joy because I trust that the picture God is weaving together is more incredible than anything I can ever imagine. Ask any mother if the labor pains were worth it.